I'm Pete Johnson. I'm the ECD of Nickelodeon Velocity. These are two of my partners in crime, Juan Carlos Gutierrez and Jared Elliott. So if you don't know what Nick Velocity is, we are the in-house advertising agency creative agency for Nickelodeon and Nickelodeon partners. We do not do promos. If there's one thing I want you to take away from the speech, we do not do promos. We do advertising, branded content, all platforms, all types of stuff, everything that you guys are doing. And we work with a lot of your same clients. So really quick bio about me. I came through to advertising through a slightly strange way, through entertainment. I was at NBC Page, then I worked at NBC, then Cartoon Network for 10 years doing promos. And then Tony Granger hired me to go to Saatchi and run the youth business for General Mills. So that was my first big-time advertising gig. Then I was there for a few years, and then I was hired by Nickelodeon to start their first. They had an idea of starting an in-house agency, but they didn't know how to do it. I said I did know how to do it, didn't really know how to do it, and I did it. But I couldn't have done it without these guys, and I couldn't have done it without the topic of today's talk, which is building a culture and how it takes time. So I'm going to throw a quick intros over to Juan Carlos and Jared.
So, born and raised in Colombia, came to North America for high school. I embarked in probably 4 different careers, starting with the armed forces before I landed in advertising. Went to VCU, then went to Miami Ad School. Ended up my first gig at Y&R. Did a 10-year sting there before Pete and Tony talked both of us from leaving this awesome gig we had at Y&R to go to Saatchi and jam with these guys. And our lives really changed. And we went from there to follow Pete to Nickelodeon.
That gig wasn't that awesome. Hey guys, I'm Jared Elliott. I have an undergraduate degree in theater from an all-women's college. I graduated magna cum laude and then went on to do theater in Kansas City and Chicago, around the United States, then went over to Europe for a few years. Then I went to teach English in Japan, then I decided to get a real job. So I went to the Creative Circus in Atlanta, and after that, I went up to Y&R and met this fine gentleman. And we were at Y&R for 10 years before this fine gentleman brought us over to Saatchi. And then 2 years after that, he promptly abandoned us for Nickelodeon. And then we followed him. So here we are.
Cool. So that's our quick backstories. So a little bit more about Nickelodeon Velocity. So we have a small staff. Some of our senior staff is here. We have Robin Brown. We have Raquel Perez. We have Hafiz Zahid and Justin Kovics. Raise your hands, everybody. Find them afterwards for comments, questions. But we have a small team of about 30, maybe 34. And last year we did about 430 projects. We have 167 clients. Sometimes turnarounds are 18 to 24 hours. It's not our preferred way of working. And our creatives are carrying sometimes 6 to 9 briefs at a time. So we are basically a sweatshop. So when we realized that, you think of it on paper, it looks like a horrible place to work, even though this GIF is really funny. But the only thing, in our opinion, that separates us from a sweatshop, given that workload and that flow of briefs, is culture. Culture is what binds us all together. It's what supports, inspires, and nurtures the creative team. It's what guides us through our interpersonal relations with our coworkers and also with clients, both internal and external. And it really is what I believe sets us apart, is our creative culture, and why we don't go crazy with all the work and the crazy turnarounds, right? All right, so what you're going to hear today is a few of the guiding principles, kind of guiding values that we think about all the time as we move through the day to maintain and build the culture and lift up and develop our people.
Which one of you has been eating all the Cheeto snacks? Okay, I've given you guys a chance to confess. This little baby can detect trace amounts of Cheetos dust. What? Gloria, kids. When did we get a cat?
Dangerously cheesy.
Is honesty. It's a hard one, but it's one you can't fake. It's one you have to really believe in. It's one you have to almost hire for. It's about character. but it's also about how you interact with everyone every day. So we are in a unique position. We know that. We have creatives that stay with us, 5, 6 years. We have a tremendous kind of corporate parent, Viacom and Nickelodeon, that has so many resources for development and support. I know, a lot of times creatives in our industry are commodities. They hop from place to place, following the money, getting awards. All that is good, but if you're going to build a culture, we know we're in a unique position to have good retention with our creatives, and that just happens every day with our conversations. We can develop and talk to our teams every day about it. So it's about career development, it's about their work, it's about dealing with, like I said, internal and external clients.
But if I can jump in here for a second, because it's even far more than that. I think when we sat in that room that first week when we were talking to ourselves, how do we build this thing? We took all our lessons from different agencies, and I quickly said to myself, this is the man we have to build around. And why? That is because this is the gentleman who has the tightest moral compass in the entire industry. I mean, you're talking about a guy who married his high school sweetheart. They both promptly had a couple of kids. They thought they didn't have enough, and they moved to New York to work for Tony Granger, and they decided, hey, let's go to Ethiopia and adopt another son. And they did. He's also a cow farmer, has horses in Ecuador. He truly lives, a life that not only gives him balance, but he inspires moralness. It inspires. I mean, it's like anytime we stray away, we're like, oh no, what would Pete say? No, he's a very unique individual, and for that special reason, Jared and I followed him, now more than 12 years ago.
Something tells me it's time for a raise.
I mean, that's all very nice to say. I mean, I knew my wife in high school, but her standards didn't lower until after college, and that's when we got married.
But let me just because he's absolutely right. I mean, we when you're a parent, the first thing you learn, parenting 101, is if you set the example for your kid, you don't have to make any rules, and that's a great example of Pete. He sets the example, and we all do our best to follow him. We still have some rules.
Yeah. And again, I mean, I've learned so much from these guys. Like, it goes both ways. And again, it's because we've been together for so long. Like, if we had only known each other for 2 or 3 years, he wouldn't have said that about me, I don't think. But I learn from these guys every day. They've totally educated me in advertising that I didn't really know anything about it, and they've guided me along. But anyway, honesty, I think we've said enough about it. But honesty is really important. And look at your own relationships at work, in your agencies with your clients. I know you can only be honest to a point sometimes. I'm a executive, so I can't tell them everything that comes down from corporate, but I try to be as honest and open as possible. But think about in your own lives, if that's happening, and if it's not happening, why, and how can you change that, right?
Great, yeah.
All right, moving on.
What are you doing?
Going undercover so I can keep an eye on my daughter.
That's a little extreme, Sheila.
My son's new Android from TrackPhone comes with free parental controls, so I can monitor where he goes, plus filter his apps and web searches from anywhere.
This holiday season, the LG Optimus Fuel comes with a free year of parental controls. TrackPhone, do everything for less.
So honesty is super important because it's the foundation of building trust. And I'm going to hand it over to Jared for trust.
Right, yeah. Trust is, you can't have trust without honesty, right? Honesty is when you allow yourself to open up, you make yourself vulnerable, you speak in truth, and all those things are what make you trustworthy. And it takes time, right? I mean, we talk about culture taking time. It's really the component of trust that takes so much time. I mean, Juan Carlos and I, we've been partners for over 20 years, and he's just now started to trust me, I think. But it is the partner dynamic that I think we want to compare it to, what we're working toward. So maybe we do a quick poll. How many of you guys have a partner that you work with at work? You're concept with, you're an art director, writer, anybody out there? Yeah, okay, there's a few, great. Okay, now here's the real question. Which one of you guys, or how many people truly, genuinely trust their partner? Awesome.
That's great.
That is great.
That totally leads to great work. For us, I always say that you can't write unless you've experienced it, right? And then you have to experience it, but you have to open up your soul, you have to open up your mind, and be willing to share everything. This guy right here knows far more than our wives know about each other, and we've come up with some kooky stuff in our time. And so this is a huge pillar for us.
But it's that relationship, right? It's that dynamic. You can be in a room, shut the door, and you can say almost anything, right? You can do almost anything because you have that trust. Wherever you go, that space between you and your partner is a safe space. And so that's what we're trying to take and implement with our small little 34-person team over at Nickelodeon. And so where everyone in the group is a trusted partner.
And that spills us straight into the work. Our creative philosophy is very simple. Whenever the teams come in, we're like, what is the human truth that you're talking about here? How does this story that we're telling, that we want to tell to our clients and our audience, how does that relate to the business strategy at hand? So the trust aspect leads to human truths that in turn leads to fantastic executions that really resonate emotionally with our audience.
Right, and I would just add, for the purposes of what we're talking about here, the work is absolutely a benefit, but it's also the quality of life that you get. When you go to work and you can trust somebody, even if you've got a crappy assignment, right, you still have your partner, and you're still doing, having fun and developing great work. Not that any assignments are crappy.
Right, one thing he said my whole time I've known Jared is that every brief is a great opportunity to do great work. Sometimes it's much harder to see that opportunity in some of the briefs, but I always hear him in my head when I see something like that, or when a team comes in like, what am I going to do with this shit? So the other thing about trust is that it isn't just about work, but if you trust each other in different aspects of your life, like Juan Carlos is our resident Burning Man, and he met some guy that had a sensory deprivation tank in Venice, California. It's a big thing now, Float Labs. But this, I don't know how many years ago, it's a long time ago, 8-9 years ago, he talked me into getting naked and getting into a tank of salt water. Separate tanks. With no sound or light. Like he told me it's going to change my life, and it did. And one thing we're all also thinking about with our teams is stress management because of the workload. And so when you go out to LA on a shoot, we pay for your first float. And some of the team have gone like double-digit times, 18, 20 times. 6 It is, and acupuncture. I put it maybe close to acupuncture. It's amazing. But I trusted him. I didn't say, you're crazy, I'm not going to do that. But that's just one example of when you trust
a little
somebody.
concern. I genuinely was.
Yeah, well, Hafiz, who's been here 16 times, I took him, and there's this crazy preamble that you used to have to hear from the crazy owner, Crash, and every time Crash took a breath, Hafiz was ready to bolt for the door. I had to hold him down. I'm like, it's okay, you're going to love it. All right, so trust. So honesty, trust if you're keeping score. Next one.
Tide presents great moments in history.
Come on. Again. Whoa, that's so cool. Not cool, Betsy. Not cool.
Humor. So you can see some of our work. We have a lot of humor and comedy, but we also try to have that in the office as much as we can. We don't take ourselves too seriously. It helps when you work at Nickelodeon. But we want to have fun with each other and do social things together. Again, this all sounds like amazing paradise, but it's, as Justin Kovics reminded me, it's not all the time, but we're going to pretend it is for this talk. Not everyone
Voice of reason.
What?
Justin, the voice of reason.
Right, he keeps us grounded. But we do a lot of stuff, team building activities that don't really feel like team building activities. There are no trust falls or anything like that. But we have a semi-annual darts tournament that brings in people from all over the building to participate in pairs darts tournaments. Al Rizi and his team always beat us. They come in, so they're like the pro of the pro-am when they come in. They kick our ass. But you meet someone from legal, you meet someone from marketing, you meet someone from program. You just meet people from different aspects, and that builds this cohesion. And again, we're just having fun, talking trash. We have a passion project that we fund. We have a contest every 6 months. What else we do?
Cricket? Don't forget about cricket.
Hafiz makes us play cricket.
Oh, women's ice hockey.
Oh yeah, so I haven't gone yet, but apparently we're the corporate this lone corporate sponsor of the Lady Riveters, a minor league hockey team in Long Island, right? Jersey. Oh God, sorry, Jersey. They won the championship, and then their season started like the next day or something. It's crazy. So anyway, humor. Don't take yourself too seriously. I think you can see just from our personalities, and we want to make sure that we, we've made some missteps sometimes in almost casting the people that come to our agency, and we learn the hard way. Don't get. You got to look for personality and for character. You don't just look at a resume or just look at a reel. Again, I know we're all under a lot of pressure to do great work, award-winning work, much cheaper work, but we think the human element is more important because we can definitely do the work. We just want to make sure the human element's right, and then we take ourselves not too seriously.
Life and work balance.
Totally. I have 3 kids, so yeah, I'm usually not around, but that's how it works. All right, we're almost home.
My Little Pony presents Friendship Is. Friendship Is Sticking Together. Presented by My Little Pony.
So, love is the final guiding value. And it's a very bold slide, I know. So I'm going to hand it over to the boldest member of the team, Jared. Oh, no, Juan Carlos.
The guy with the hat and the ruffles.
The guy with the hat and the ruffles.
Ruffles. Whenever you talk, ruffles. All right, so I'm going to tell you a story, which is actually more powerful than discerning about love, because, everything from religion to your family member, everybody's always talking about love, but this is actually really neat. About 7 years ago, I think, my friend Al Reese over here, a huge Foo Fighters fan, invited me to come join him to see the Foo Fighters at Roseland. What I didn't know was that Al had pulled together a nice assortment of different people in the industry. When I walked in, I honestly did not recognize most of them, mostly because we've been working in the entertainment side for so long. So I quickly started talking to folks, and it's important to understand the kind of the room placement, because this is about observing human behavior and being able to act on it. My back was to the door of the Russian vodka room, all right? And anybody that's been in there knows that it's cavernous, it's dark, you feel like you're in Eastern Europe drinking all day. And we were there for, 20 minutes. When all of a sudden the door opened, and it was almost like the light just flooded in. But the moment that happened, all the people that were in front of me, their eyes open wide, huge smiles, like from here to here. It was quite interesting. I wanted to turn around so fast to see who it was, but I decided to take on really those 8 people at that table. And then I see the person come through, hugging people, no handshaking, hugging. And this gentleman was none other than Mr. David Baldwin. And, he went, shook hands, hugged, sat down. And then I proceeded to ask the people around me, like, what's the deal with this cat? Why are you guys so enamored with this guy? I discovered quickly that many of these people had at one point collaborated with David or had worked for him. And so I made a mental note. I said, interesting. Wow, I really need to talk to this guy at some point. He lives in North Carolina, so it was important that I get a hold of him because I really didn't have the relationship per se. So we went to the concert. Hour and a half into it, I go to the back room, the back bar of Roseland, and who do I see there? David Baldwin by himself, ordering a drink. So I stepped up quickly and I said, let me take care of that drink. And I proceeded to describe to him what I had seen in that room. Because as I told him, I said, people were smiling, they were doing this, they were behaving. I looked up his face, he had blushed completely. He was utterly embarrassed. But then I turned and I said, I'm replaying this for you because I want you to understand what I saw. And then I explained to him that Pete Johnson had given me the keys to the Rolls Royce by asking me to help him build this in-house shop at Nickelodeon. And while I had managed plenty of folks in the armed forces, my first career, plenty of bars and restaurants, another career, it's a different animal to manage creatives. A lot of egos. Anybody that's a manager in here understands that. And so I explained that to him, and I said, David, I would love any advice that you have on maybe one day I can be at the level that you have this going on. And of course, Foo Fighters, last set. Like, who in the right mind would say, well, let's step outside. I'd love to share some wisdom with you. And I was like, okay, super stoked, and completely freaked out because I had no pen, no paper. You know, how many beers, cocktails after, vodka. And I just kept saying, memorize, 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 memorize. And then we get to the outside. And funny enough, David was very succinct and super simple and quick to the point. This is what he said. He says, love your team like they are family. Again, love your team as if they are your own family. I nodded. He nodded. I was waiting for more. And then I quickly realized, oh shit, that's it. I got a big, huge smile on me because I know my best friends. I know the team that we had built, and we're big about love. And I wish David was here because we would be so grateful. We are so grateful for that piece of advice because the next day I came back to Pete, Jared, you know, anybody that was listening, and I said, guys, this is how we got to do it. I think that there's something so simple about it, but yet it takes a lot of time to craft. So anyhow, love others as you would love your family in your work environment.
So all you need is love. Somebody should write a song about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great story, and that's just, it's hard though, right? I mean, it doesn't mean everything's gonna be hunky-dory all the time, but you can have those real conversations, you can have real discussions, disagreements, and your family's not gonna run away from you, right? So that's the show. So just to recap, just leave on the logo. So, you know, honesty, you know, be honest and open with yourself, with your team. Trust in yourself, trust your team, trust your leaders. What was the next one? Humor. Just don't take yourself too seriously. Come on, we're not.
Saving lives.
Yeah, maybe we are in some way. No, we're not. We're not. And finally, love. I mean, that's just a nice message. I mean, Hafiz is not a hugger, so that's one thing that doesn't really work out with our thing. But I like hugging. And I don't know. Yeah. It's South American. We have a lot of South Americans that work for us. But yeah, so that's it. So honesty, trust, humor, and love. It's pretty simple. And then you got to do great work, right? That's on the other side. But that's not what this week's about. So I think we have some time. We'd love to take questions, or if you guys, yeah, sure. Hi.
We're from Tokyo. Oh, thank you. We're from Tokyo, so we don't get Nickelodeon. So could you tell me more about the in-house agency? Like when was it created, and why did they want to create it? And so basically, you make the ads that only run in Nickelodeon?
So it was about 10 years ago. They wanted to raise the level of the kind of the work, the brand entertainment work that they did, integrated marketing, and then I got hired. And the spots we run, they run the content we make will run on Nickelodeon, but a lot of it, I think everything you saw here ran nationally and some globally. We do a lot of work that doesn't have any Nickelodeon branding in it.
But it has the essence.
It has the essence. What we're really selling is our kids and family expertise. That's what we're giving our clients, and not only, you know, they obviously want to buy media on our network, so they get our audience, but then they want to be able to take it somewhere else. Because sometimes we're really used to working or talking to two different audiences at the same time, adults, moms, dads, and kids, or just kids, and a lot of agencies don't have that expertise, so we fill that gap for them.
All right, so we function as an in-house shop, but all the work that we do is for clients that are out of the house. So it's kind of confusing.
Yeah, we don't do any like pure Nickelodeon work just for like I said, promos or anything just for Nickelodeon. It's always, if it's Nickelodeon, it's always going to be in partnership with another brand, an outside brand.
Do you do like online stuff?
Sure, we do all platforms. Social. We're a little limited on social because we don't target kids under 13, but we have Facebook. Some branded content will be soon coming out on YouTube, things like that.
Are there other networks that have in-house agencies?
Yeah, I think a lot of networks and a lot of kind of non-traditional companies now are having in-house agencies. New York Times is a great one. Verizon has a huge one. NBC has a couple. Disney has one, I think, called Yellow Shoes. Cartoon Network has one. Yes, we're the best, though.
Don't a lot of those guys, they do promos and
Most
advertising?
They do, a lot of it is more promos and integrated marketing. And New York Times does more amazing content like VR and 360 and just amazing work. I don't know exactly what all those other places do, but we're functioning more like an ad agency.
So it sounds like an amazing place to work. What happens on a bad day? I mean, and how does it translate itself into reality? Because there's going to be days when you have clients that don't give a shit that you love each other and that you all have coffee together and play darts. They just want this work done. They want it cheaply and they want it now. And how does that translate itself? And then there must be individuals who don't actually deliver in the team. How do they get dealt with? What does the dark side of it look like?
I'll start with the dark side. So like I said before, there's so much opportunity for development. Because again, we don't treat our creatives as commodities. So just because you're not working out or things aren't, it doesn't seem like a good fit. Like we do everything we can. We spend a lot of money to do a 360, to do coaching, to do mentoring and development, and that's turned more than 2 or 3 people around. That's one. 2, I think the culture is what allows us to have really shitty days. Like, Raquel makes sure that Juan Carlos and I aren't in the room together if we're in bad moods for too long, because I'm half Ecuadorian, he's full Colombian, so it just gets really bad.
That's why I'm sitting in the middle.
But we can have those bad days, and we are under the same stresses that a lot of you are with budgets, and we have. But again, we can have these real frank conversations about the work and about what are we trying to do here. Do we want to come here and do the cheapest work in the fastest pace for a one-time client? Like, that doesn't necessarily guide what we do. So the culture allows us to have shitty days. I don't know how else to say it, right?
I would just say...
And we do. We do have shitty days. We have shitty weeks.
Right. I mean, we're not all sitting around holding hands singing Kumbaya, right? I mean, it's like there are some really crappy days, but it's like family, right? I mean, you have good days with your family, you have bad days with your family, but you're family, and so you stick together. And that's why people stay.
And we have so many different people, different types of people at different life stages, right? So we have people with kids, no kids, married, not married, dogs, cats, joiners, not joiners, introverts, mostly introverts. We only have one extrovert. But so like I said, not everyone participates all the time, but like everybody has the freedom. The culture allows you to, people can decide how much of themselves they want to bring to work, right? We're not telling you have to bring your whole self to work. You can have secrets. You can have a different part of your life that you don't want to share, but you don't feel like you're being judged. And I think when you're having a shitty day, bad client call, or project doesn't go well, you know that you have support, and you can vent, you can...
Right.
I don't know if that answers your question. It's mostly pretty awesome, though.
I just told the story in another seminar. Our company had 2 huge scandals of sexual harassment and also making people overwork. So we're in the middle of changing our company culture. But our company has 7,000 people in one building, so it's really difficult to create a new culture with that many people. Oh yes.
So I think also there's microcultures, right? So there's the production team, the creative. There's little variations. I'm sure you'll find in 7,000 people. But if you have kind of my suggestion, if you have guiding principles, then everyone can interpret them on their floor or their area of the open, horrible office plan, probably, right? That's just what I would think, but.
Thank you. And also, I think having a good leader is key, because right now we've never met our current CEO. We've never talked to him. The only way we see him is in a huge boardroom or on TV. But you guys seem amazing, so I think even when America had Obama, everyone was pretty happy, right?
And just back to what Robin was saying about Nickelodeon and Viacom, I've met the CEO 4 or 5 times, just like at kind of social events that we were invited to, ad sales, offsites. I mean, he's just totally accessible. And the previous one as well. That's just the way that's part of the culture. The corporate culture isn't necessarily there in this ivory tower that you can never talk to. So you're right. I think it depends on the personality and of the leadership. It does come top down, but with your example, I think now it's like bottom up. Like now, what's the culture?
Yeah, I think they facilitate it, but it's everybody else's responsibility to jump in.
Okay, I think we have time. Okay, anyway, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.